beekeeper, you have those, or you will have them. Stand by. I'm Johnny Walker. I'm the president of the Pinellas Beekeepers Association. I think you're coming out on Thursday night, on this warm Thursday night. So we're going to get started. We are doing our Bee Day Saturday over at a yard here behind the college. To start at 8:30 in the morning. Come dress decent to work bees, closed-toed shoes, long shirts preferably. If you don't, it's not that bad. We do have veils and gloves. Try and stay away from dark colors. I tend to get a little stirred up about that, but so like I said, we got closed veils, 8:30. You do have to sign a waiver once. Once you sign the waiver, you're good to go. I think that's pretty well everything for that. Oh, and if you can't make it on Saturday, Jim will be doing his BDA on Monday at 10 o'clock out at Great Bay. That's out near the interstate. So if anybody's interested in doing that, that can't be here on Saturday, get with Jim back there and let him know. On 28th Street. He can give you directions into it. It's right there by Great Bay Distributors off 28th Street. So on Saturday, and I believe, Jim, you're chasing queens too, right?
Yeah.
Having a queen hunt?
Yeah.
So we will be opening the hives up and looking for the queen. That's always interesting. It seems like whenever we do it, they really play hide and seek. And then when we're not doing it, they seem to be fine. They tend to know somehow. Somebody tells me. So we'll get that going on Saturday. No telling what else we'll see in there. I do want to mention that we have a Boy Scout that was trying to get his last badge. And he, for his project, he set up and built us these storm traps. So he made us 4 for our club here, and he made 4 for out at Great Bay. And he painted them, he collected the money, built the boxes, painted the boxes, which is staged if you've ever done that, and he put frames in them, and he put a logo on the front for us on each of the boxes, so all 8 of them have that. And he did a beautiful job. Thank you. We have H2L. So we'll be working on our hives, checking them out. We run 10 frame hives. So if you haven't got bees yet, just thinking about getting into them, I strongly suggest you come out and see our bees in our boxes, see what we do, why we do what we do before you buy. You may want to go a different direction with smaller frames or smaller boxes or something different. And that would give you the opportunity to do that before you have the investments of boxes and bees and frames and all that before you get into it. So it might save you some headaches and some time and some money. The only thing I tell you that you really should not be cheap on is the smoker. Don't buy the cheapest smoker you can find. The smoker we're giving away tonight in the raffle is a Dadian 10-inch. It's 4-inch in diameter and 10 inches tall. They make the same thing in a 4-inch and a 7-inch tall. It's the hardest thing in the world to keep lit. I don't know why. I had no trouble keeping the 10-inch one lit, but the 7-inch one aggravates me to death. Because the first one I bought was a 7-inch, and I hardly ever use it unless it's a backup or just that's all I got. Veils, you don't have to have the one-piece bee suit. You can get by with really an inexpensive veil, some just decent gloves, a hive tool. Just get some nice boxes. The biggest thing is just have gentle bees. If you're gonna be in a neighborhood in a subdivision, you need to have gentle bees. Because when you go out to work your bees, if you get them stirred up and your neighbors get stung up or your neighbor's grandkids get stung up, it can be just a problem for you all the way around. You catch more flies with honey than you do vinegars, but you can piss off a lot of neighbors with bees if you're not careful. And if you have bees and you give your neighbors a little honey, you'd be surprised how good a friend you can become to your neighbors. So just keep that in mind. I will tell you that this time of year, some of the only stuff blooming and really going on, we just got out of mangrove, so we're into probably cabbage palm, which keeps the bees stirred up and keeps them moving. They don't make a ton of honey off of it, and what they do is really moist. Be careful if you're pulling honey this time of year. It all needs to be capped. If it's 70–80% capped, don't rob it yet. Because they will have honey this time of year from the cabbage palm and all that's really moist. They will cap it sometimes as high as, I've seen 21%. If you take 21% honey that's capped, and it's all capped, it can sour on you if you store it length of time. Now, if you take just a frame or so for you to eat, and you have a few friends, and you're going to eat it the next month or so, you won't have a trouble if you try storing it for a period of months. It will tend to sour, and someone had a jar last month or the month before that brought it in the car. The jar kept just exploding, and you could pop it. And I tasted it. Tasted a little yeasty. You could tell it was a little fermented, and it just keeps going. So, like I said, when you're extracting, if you look at your frame, your whole frame, everything on both sides has to be capped if you're going to extract it. So just keep that in mind, or it can cause problems.
I'm Derek. I do a lot of mentoring. I'm going to pass this around. Anybody who wants a mentorship, put your name down here, grab a card, and I'll get back to you or get back to me. I'm going to pass this around as well. This is the National Geographic article which I printed, and it's about how bees take hornets and smother them and eat them. And a professional photographer took a whole lot of pictures, so I take this around, take a look at it. They're not perfect pictures, but take a look. And I've got a dumb blonde story to tell you all. I got a call yesterday from a blonde. I went down to their house. She said there are bees in the garage and all of them about office work and da-da. So I get down there. She shows me outside the wall. There's an electrical fitting that's broken away from the wall, and there's one bee coming in there. So I went inside. Obviously, bees got in. There must have been 50 to 100 bees trying to get out the windows. And I'm walking around there looking, how do they get in? And finally we found out exactly how they got in, sealed it up, and I'm walking around. Is this me? What am I smelling? Is this lemongrass oil I'm smelling? I just baited my heart. So we get finished, we get back talking out there, and I say, what you should do is to put up a trap nest, an owl box or something of this nature, and bait it. And here's what you bait it with, lemongrass oil. She said, oh, I love the smell of lemongrass oil. I sprayed it all over my garage. So she baited her garage and the bees came in. Anyway, no.
That's what you call the world's largest swarm trap.
Yeah.
So this time of year, it is warm. They are bringing a little nectar in from the cabbage palms and all. You really need to keep an eye out on your mite counts. Your mite counts will start going up. The problem with that is that it weakens the hive. It weakens the hive. They catch viruses and all, and then all of a sudden they'll collapse. And it'll collapse in 2 or 3 days once it gets to a point. And I've had people tell me, oh, I don't have any mites. You're not looking for any mites. Your hives are in Florida, you have mites. I guarantee it. You need to do either an alcohol wash or a powdered sugar wash roll to check for mites. But if you don't know your mite count, don't say you don't have none. You just ain't smart enough to know how many you got. You need to know that. You can compare it. If it's above a certain number, you need to start doing something to treat. You don't have to chemically treat. There's quite a few different things you can do. In different ways you can to work your bees and work mites. But if you're not doing nothing, the mites will take over your hive at some point, and they will die. Yes, ma'am.
After catching a storm, I caught two Memorial Day, like a day apart from each other. I'm from Alabama, sorry for jumping back there, but I didn't recognize you. I just came to serve tonight, but I wanted to ask you, when's the best time to do a gorilla check once you catch a storm? Like, do they get kind of used to the box you have them in, or?
I would make sure they had several frames built out and the queen's laying good.
Yeah.
The thing you need to be careful when you do either especially an alcohol wash, but whether you do a powdered sugar roll or an alcohol wash, you need to make sure you're not testing your queen for mites. Yeah, alcohol was really hard on her because it's going to kill her.
Yeah.
It's not like just a good time and she comes home with a hangover.
I try to put my, I don't know what that official name is, that little plunger thing that you mark your queen with, but I try to find her, put her in that, set her in the shade, right off to the side where I'm working, and then manipulate stuff before I do anything, because I'm scared to kill her.
So be careful
I have-
with handling her and moving her like that. She can overheat, or if she's not in the hive. The hive, they're taking care of her, they're fanning her, they're feeding her, they're taking real good care of her. You have them out from there.
Yeah. I try to go pretty fast, so when I do it, I put it right, I've got my setup, where I've got set on, the wood out in my apple orchard, and underneath that, I've got, they're on the cinder blocks of wood for the shade, it provides a little bit of shade, and I'm trying to go, I mean, it's not that bad right now, it is here, so, I try to go in first thing in the morning right now, and, I try to fast, like, if I'm gonna do a gorilla check or something, it's like, I gotta get in there fast enough to get her, move her, sit her in the shade, do what I need to do, I usually put something leaned up against it, so like the sun's not gonna turn to her, so.
If you're moving pretty quick, that's not a problem. And so I say pretty quick, and this may sound a little odd, but that would be even up towards 30 minutes for checking a hive. And I've worked with some old timers that basically, when they get to the hive and look at it and crack the lid on it, they can tell you 95% of what's going on in that hive without taking a frame out of it. By the way the bees are going and coming up from the entrance, what they do when they smoke them a little bit, and then what the bees look like and sound like once they pull the lid off. Once you've been doing it for a long time and you put all the faculties together and you start learning what sounds and what this and what that's going on, you'd be surprised what you can learn to do. So that's some of the things we show when we do our class out there.
Yeah.
Working the hives,
If you want, sign
Like a smoker.
what's that, a room?
what you're looking for, what you're doing, and why you're doing it. I will tell you that if you read a really good book about beekeeping, there's a good chance the bees haven't read that book yet. And so what you have to do is you have to open your hive up, and you have to pull a few good frames out, and drop the book in there and let them have it for 2 or 3 weeks so they can keep up with what you're trying to do. Because they've been doing what they've been doing for a long time, and they didn't need a book before you started. And I will tell you that most books are written by northern beekeepers, so when you read about the hives and the hive boxes and the way they stack and do theirs, first flow in Florida? Anybody want to guess when our first flow starts in Florida? January. So our winter isn't quite like their winter. I had an old timer tell me when I got into beekeeping that the winter in Florida was July and August. I thought, he's been setting that smoker down a little too close. Spending too much time with that hot bee suit on. And over the years, I figured out what he was talking about. Our slowest time for our bees are usually July and August. There's less going on in the blooming field. There's not a lot blooming, not a lot going on. The bees are hot. They're trying to stay alive. It's a lot of work for them. And so it's our slowest time of the year. December can be a little bit of a slow month, late November, but definitely July and August.
Yes, Johnny, something else I forgot to mention. Just looking at the Bee Hotel here. I had a meeting this week with Brandy Gabbard, the Councillor Gabbard, and we've got permission. We're going to put a Bee Hotel up in Rainier Park, Rainier Bay Park, up off 4th Street, and we worked with the park people for permission for that, and there's going to be a sign on there with a QR code for information, and we're hoping that if this goes well, we'll get bee hotels scattered around in all the parks. Okay? So, anybody get that? That's what native bees, you know, local single bees, solitary bees. The homeless bees, yep.
So, anybody have any questions? Yes?
Should we start feeding again around July and August, or later, or what?
So all the bees and beehives are different. You need to open your hive up and check and see what your bees have for their honey stores. You are going in to look at your bees to check their general health and to see how much food stores they have. If they have a decent amount of food stores, that's honey, then you don't have to feed them. But if you went in this month and you went in 2 weeks ago and you say, there's 2 less frames of honey in here than there was last month, and you go in again next month or next 2 weeks and there's 2 frames less, you need to keep an eye. You don't want to run out of honey. So 2 or 3 bad rainy days, rainy, blowy days. If we were to have a storm or a storm front come through, these are all things where they can burn up some extra honey. So you don't want to let your hive get depleted of honey because that's their food. If July and August, if there's not a good nectar flow coming in, which there won't be, and you let your hive get low on honey, you could actually starve your bees to death. And that will either kill them or they will swarm and attempt to survive, like a mad dash to survive. So, when you go into your hive, you're looking to see what condition your hive's in. You also want to make sure your hive isn't overflowing. You know, that sounds like a big problem. But once 10 frames get filled out and your super gets filled out, the queen will be going, okay, our job here is done. We need to split and move. And she'll take the better half of the hive with her on a swarm. And then you're stuck with what they made for a queen, which can be good or it can not be so good this time of year. So keep an eye on your hives. Keep an eye on your honey when you're going through your boxes. Yes?
Is there a treatment you would recommend during the heat of summer for mites? I know that there is something in the parts of
So you got to do a lot of checking on that. I know some of the salicylic acid stuff seems to work better in the summer. Some of the other chemicals and stuff, you need to really pay attention to what they're selling and what you can get. Because some of it is like not effective at 90. Well, guess what? How hot's our days been? I mean, we may drop way down in the low 80s at night. But our days are still, well, they've been in the good 90s for over a week now. So you really, because some of them chemicals will tell you they're not effective, or they're effective from this range to this range. So if it's saying that, 85, 87 degrees is its upper range, don't think that 93 is going to work, because 5 degrees is a lot. And what that does is it just burns the chemical off quicker. And that makes it not last as long, it makes it less effective, and it's kind of defeating the purpose for why you're putting it in there. And if you're shortening the range, the time that's on there, and its potency. So you're shorting yourself, and the stuff's, none of them are cheap. But if you're gonna do it, you need to get your best bang for your buck, so it's a lot of homework. Some people don't wanna put this or that or the other in there, I get that. I had a good friend, excuse me, that used to do splits on his hives, and he would split them way down. And pull off the queen, and brood, and separate them, and split them, and wouldn't call it forced swarm. And that helped with mites a lot, because they need brood cycle to reproduce. If you break the brood cycle and take the queen out, she's not laying, you don't have any brood cycling through there for 30 or 40 days. Until you get the queen in there, that can break the brood cycle and cause the mites count to come down. It will not cure the mites or get rid of all the mites in the hive, but it is one thing. And nowadays, you about have to use a 1-2 punch. You'll have a hard time finding any one thing that'll. There's no silver bullets to take care of them. So, any other questions? Yes.
Does anyone have any experience with, can you talk about creamed honey? Or
Creamed
whipped
what?
honey?
Creamed honey?
Whipped honey? I've been trying to get information on it, and,
Yeah, I've made some cream honey. You basically just need the starter, which is buy some cream honey, and then put your honey in with that cream honey, and the whole thing will become cream honey. And there's all kinds of technical and chemical reactions that go on with it. But if you get the starter cream honey, whatever you put that in, put it in other honey, you have cream honey.
so do you have any creamed
I
honey?
do, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna chat until after the
Okay.
meeting.
I do know if you take creamed honey to a show and you set it out on the table where it's warmer in the sun, it will become uncreamed honey and turn right back into honey because it just dissolves. So be careful of that. Heat is not your friend when it comes to making creamed honey. Any other questions?
Or she's gonna stop.
This room slowly filled up in the last 20 minutes.
Thank you. I just need a little.
It's starting to look good.
Be sure and tell them if they come out to the apiary, not to wear any cologne or hairspray or aftershave or flavorful deodorants, because the bees will think they're a flower and
Any
they're
other things? You gotta remember, bees communicate with pheromones, so odors affect their attitude and disposition, we might say. So if you have the right cologne on, you might be their really favorite. If you have the wrong cologne on, you may be way down on the list and nowhere near their favorite. And you might take it personally and just think it's you, but it's not you. It could be something else. Be careful with colognes and deodorants. Yes, sir.
They will need their own vacuum, so they have plans or suggestions.
I've seen some online, I made one time. Used it. It's really hard to work, and a lot of tuning goes into it to not kill a lot of bees. If you don't want to kill any bees, don't use a bee vacuum, because my experience was you end up killing a pretty good number of bees. So,
She already sold some.
someone else here may have some different, he was asking about a bee vacuum, or making and using a bee vacuum.
It's super cute.
Yes.
I have one if you text me or email me, I'll send them the plans. It doesn't kill a lot of bees, and it puts the bees right into the new house instead of a bubble.
Okay. So that gentleman with a bright yellow shirt and hat. Sebastian, do you have
Yes, I do.
nooks for sale?
Yes,
Queens?
yes.
Anything else?
Say what?
Kids, anything else?
I got a few.
Jim, do you have any nooks for sale?
I only have one left.
Todd?
I sell one or two a week, like I've got 3 that are going this week, and I can call me, I'll put you on your list.
Todd, do you
on my list.
Do you ever know of anybody that sells like a single queen off for a special
No.
occasion?
I don't know anything about selling queens.
It can be a tough time of the year when you lose a queen in the dead part of summer. There's not so many drones out there to make with them, and it can be an issue. And sometimes finding queens can be a little difficult. So keep an eye open for that. I want to give you a few minutes to make a break for the snacks back there. I think we have we got something in the cooler and some snacks. We also have raffle tickets out of the desk. We've got all these prizes up here you can get. We do our raffle drawing at the very end. So if you want to grab some of that, we'll get started here in about 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes. So be fast. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right down the road from you. Yeah, there's Garden Avenue. That's like, I stopped. Well, your bees business, yeah.
I didn't know you were, you know what, I need to shut down. I'm sorry. So what,
Garden Avenue, Garden in Elbridge.
okay, and I'm on Facebook. So you know where I am.
All right. Hang on, because my telephone number. So I have to like how high up? Oh, 20 feet max. Yeah. Still waiting to hear back from Don. The lady that owns that house. So I'm gonna get back to you.
I know you have my card. You have my card?
No, I do not hear. You're very welcome. I'm ready. Oh, okay. You guys keep your break. I didn't reach 30. I was even thinking, yeah, maybe putting the feeder up on the top. Once we get the super in the sun, so what's the, right. Never mind.
I heard it. Maybe if I saw you before, you didn't have as long a hair. I'm Nina Montana. This is Howard. No, I had a great apartment building for 30 years, so until I sold it in 2016, I never even sheltered it. Yeah, you don't know how to say it. It's not really a strong, oh, well, weren't you, right now, I live in Willis Park, and I'm
All right, you all ready to get started?
like trailers on 34th Street, like the 7th South. I still look forward to it.
Hey, real quick, why don't y'all find your seats and we'll get this going. Okay, I got a microphone. Sit down. I would like to take a moment. Last Saturday we had a little event at Three Daughters Brewery in St. Pete. And I would like to take a moment and thank all the people from our club that went down and helped out, helped the club out with that. Dan and Derek, Tim, and Brooke, and Jim. Thank y'all for coming down and working and talking to people and setting up the table and all that down there. It wasn't as large as they thought. It was a newer event. Hopefully it'll be better next year. But it takes a lot of people and a lot of time to get these things together. So thank y'all for setting that up and getting it done. My name is Johnny Walker. I am the president of the Beekeepers Association. And I got Tim Todd. George, Fred, Vice President. Our secretary's running away. And our treasurer is chained to the desk out there where she usually is during before and after. If I could get you all to stand so we can say a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May be seated. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for a chance to get together and study this insect. We ask you to be with us and bless us at this time. In your name, amen. The only other announcements I want to get out of the way, I think the most important one, is July, next month. We will have Jamie Ellis here speaking. And I got to tell you, if you've never heard him speak, he's amazing. And that's your boss, correct? I know his boss, and you're not her. She'll get home with the kids, I guarantee you. But he'll be speaking last month. I will tell you, months and years past, when we've had Jamie speak, don't come straggling late thinking you're getting a seat. This room will be full. He packs them in. He's been with the college, I don't know, 12, 15 years. He's a great speaker. He's a great professor. He's just a great man. And he has a love for bees. And when you see him, you can tell he must have honey in his veins. Because he talks about bees when he was in school, having bees. So he's been doing and dealing with bees for a long time. And he's very intelligent and has been involved with a lot of things in the United States. He's been involved with a lot of things around the world with beekeeping and different groups and different cultures and all. So he's really a sharp guy. I hope I can just learn what he's forgot. He's very successful. And that'll be a great night. So don't be late getting here next month in July. We do have Saturday morning at 8:30 behind the college here. If you go online, there's an address and all set up there for our B-Day. So at 8:30 come, closed-toed shoes, long pants and shirts, except for Derek. He always wears shorts. We've got veils and hats. We will open hives up. We're doing a queen hunt, so we're looking for queens. Come on out and help us find a queen. Jim will be doing it on Monday at Great Bay at about 10 o'clock in the morning. So if you can't make it on the weekend, you can make it with Jim on Monday at around 10 o'clock. So that gives you an option. He has veils and gloves, and he has ants on the ground, so wear closed-toed shoes just like us. That pretty well covers everything on that, I believe. Correct? So without any further ado, because this young lady's going to talk about something that's always been dear to my heart, and I got to be a big part of this back when before they were rebuilding it. Because she's talking about the college and the bee lab and all. So without any further ado, I'll just let Amy move here, take over, and it's all you.
I feel like I'm hiding back here because I cannot see over this podium. But that's
Stand
okay.
up, Amy.
I'm trying. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Boo, and I'm with the University of Florida Honeybee Research and Extension Laboratory. Before I get started, I'd like to get to know my audience and who I'm actually speaking to. So how many of you are backyard hobbyist beekeepers? Wow, a lot of you. How many of you are sideliners? That's anyone with 41 to 100 colonies. We've got 2. How many commercial beekeepers do we have in the audience? Anyone with 101 or more? All right, the back row. Awesome. How many of you have been beekeeping for 1 to 4 years? Okay. 4 to 9? Over 10 years? All right, some people didn't raise their hand, but that's okay.
Less than a year.
Less than a year. All right, cool. Thanks. So what I wanted to do is thank you again for inviting me to come speak to you. I think this is the largest beekeepers association in the state. Yeah. That's awesome. A lot of what my job is to travel the state. We have 67 counties in the state of Florida, and my job is to go to beekeepers associations, meet beekeepers from all over the state, identify what some of their needs are, bring that back to the lab so that Dr. Jamie Ellis and Dr. Cameron Jack can start doing awesome research projects so that we can help the beekeepers out there. So I do like to keep my talks pretty informal, but what we'll do is I'll just go through a presentation, talk to you a little bit about the lab, talk to you a little bit about the research that we do, and then talk to you about some of the resources that we have to offer. So if you're a beginner beekeeper, I think what you're going to learn through your beekeeping career is that the longer you're a beekeeper, the less you realize you know. Yeah, can you all agree with that? Yeah. And so when I started this position, I started in 2019. So I actually started right before COVID had hit. And that kind of took us back a couple of years. We had to do everything virtually. We had to transition over to our virtual programs. And so we're now just getting back into the swing of things. During that time, we started a podcast. I don't know, can you raise your hand if you've listened to this podcast? Okay, so a good amount of you. You've heard my voice before then. This is what I look like. Hey, nice to meet you. And so after we started being able to actually go out and start speaking with everyone again, I realized that beekeepers really had no idea what we were doing at the lab. We don't just sit there and feed each other food in the cells that we hang out in every day. That's not what we do. But I did want to talk about the research so at least you know what we have to offer and ways that maybe we can all collaborate with one another. All right, so just me in a minute so that you can get to know me a little bit better. I've been working with the University of Florida for 6.5 years now. I've just realized, actually I was told that I'm not a young professional anymore. I've been around for more than 5 years, and so I'm out of that qualification. But I used to be a county extension agent, and I worked with horticulture. So I worked with Master Gardeners. I ran the Master Gardener program. We had about 200 volunteers that were with us, and I had a beekeeping program as well. Do you all work with your local extension office here in Pinellas County? Okay. We'll try to get you to work with your local office so that we can provide more beekeeping education for you. I was there for a couple of years, and I've been with the Honeybee Lab now for a couple of years, so it'll be 3 years here pretty soon. So, the Honeybee Research and Extension Lab. How many of you have been to the lab? Okay, so a good amount of you have been to the lab. So I'm just going to quickly tell you how this lab was built and the background behind this lab, because it's a very special story to this lab. And Dr. Jamie Ellis, who you all will have next month as your guest speaker, he has classes at UF, he does research with honeybees, and he also does extension, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. And so a lot of his position is working with beekeepers. And so having that collaboration, working with beekeepers, is very important in the extension world. And so he was working with beekeepers, and they said, we want to build you a facility. And what faculty member would say no to that? Nobody, of course. And so beekeepers went and they lobbied up the state to try to get this facility built. And they said, we would like to have a classroom, we want to have space, we want to be able to conduct honeybee research, and really this is going to be a place that people can go and learn about honeybees. There's no other place like it in the entire world. And so the governor was like, no, that's not going to happen. So it got vetoed the first year. The second year, they said, we really feel like this is important. We really want to have this facility built. And they said no the second year. So the third year, the governor said, okay, if beekeepers really feel like this is something that they would like to see, if they want to see this building being built, they need to contribute $200,000. And so that day, a beekeeper wrote a check for $200,000. Yeah. And that was the lab started. So that was the day that the lab had started to be built. Okay, so the original project was supposed to be about $2.5 million. Now beekeepers, I remember this because I was in Orange County at the time and I was part of the local association. And I remember every single meeting, beekeepers contributing money, donating money to make this lab happen. And so what was supposed to be a $2.5 million facility is a $5 million facility because of beekeepers. Yeah. So thank you to beekeepers who had helped contribute to this cause. You know, I love this story because it wasn't that the University of Florida decided that they were going to build this building. It wasn't because the state of Florida decided to build this building. It was because there was a need and the beekeepers really wanted to see this facility happen. And so if you haven't been to the facility, we have public tours and private tours. I invite you to come and explore the facility because we have thousands of people come through each year. But it really is a very special building. We've got hexagons out front and everything, the colors, the art, Everything in that building is honeybee specific. It's really amazing. All right, so these are just a lot of numbers, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what the beekeeping industry in Florida looks like. And so in the state of Florida, we have over 5,000 registered beekeepers. Now, if you're a beekeeper, hopefully you know that you need to be registered. If you're not registered, I know a lady back there, raise your hand back. You can talk to her and she'll help you get registered with the state. So we have over 5,000 registered beekeepers, and out of those 5,000 registered beekeepers, about 81% of them are backyard hobbyist beekeepers. And so that kind of makes sense, right? And so that's basically what this room is. The majority of you are backyard beekeepers. Now, when we look at the number of honeybee colonies that we have in the state, we have almost 700,000 beekeepers in the state. That would mean that each one of you had to maintain and manage 131 colonies. Think you could do that? That's some hard work, right? So we do have commercial beekeepers. We have beekeepers in the state that have 101 colonies. We've got beekeepers in the state that have 30,000 colonies that they manage in the state. Florida is one of the top beekeeping states in the entire nation. And it's really incredible to see the industry inside and out. So I thought this was a fun map, and I thought you all would enjoy this because your area in the state has the most registered beekeepers in the entire state. Yeah. Lots of things to be proud of tonight. I feel like you're just applauding yourself. So good job, everyone. And so when you look at the number of beekeepers per district, there are a lot of beekeepers that come into the state. A lot of those beekeepers also leave the state, and a lot of those beekeepers are migratory, where they will stay within the state and they'll also go out of the state. And so just a little bit more about our industry. With the honey production, so these numbers actually just came out a couple of weeks ago. This is an updated presentation, and so the value of honey was about $310 million in the United States. Now, in Florida, it was about $19.8 million. This might also help you as far as the value of honey in 2021 was a little bit higher per pound. It is $2.54 per pound, where in 2020 it was $2.10 per pound. Now we look at the $1 million industry, right? But really what makes the big bucks are the pollination services that honeybees provide. So honeybees and their pollination services contribute to almost a $15 billion industry. That is huge compared to honey. And when you talk to commercial beekeepers, especially beekeepers that have been around for a very long time, they'll tell you that they used to be all honey producers. And as time went by, they started getting more money for pollination services. They started working with different growers. Right now, almonds in California are the biggest money makers in the beekeeping industry. And so a lot of our beekeepers, we call that the Super Bowl of beekeeping. They get their bees ready, they prep them, they make sure they're healthy, just so that they can take them out to almond pollination. And so, as many of you know, honeybees are very good at pollinating crops, and they pollinate about 10 to 20% of our quality fruits and vegetables that we have. So this kind of just gives you an idea of what the commercial beekeepers do around our nation and the migratory tracks that they'll take. And you'll see that a lot of those commercial beekeepers will make their way down to Florida. Why would that be? We don't have an actual winter, right? And so a lot of beekeepers around the nation will bring their bees down to Florida and around the nation. And so a lot of the beekeepers right now, they normally won't send all of their bees at one time. They'll split them up. So they'll take them to New York, keep some of them in Florida, and move them around to the Dakotas, to Michigan, some of those northern states as well. Have you all heard about honeybee stressors? Has anyone heard that the honeybees are declining and the honeybees are dying? So there's a lot of different reasons why people want to get into beekeeping. Primarily in 2006, there was something called colony collapse disorder, where commercial beekeepers were stating that they were losing about 40% of their colonies. And so ever since then, there's been a lot of emphasis on honeybees and pollinators and the importance that honeybees play in our food system. And so there's a national organization called the Bee Informed Partnership, and what they do is an annual survey. If you're a beekeeper, I encourage you to take part in that, because that is one of very few national surveys that we have of beekeepers, why they're losing colonies, and some of the reasons for decline. And so with the Bee Informed Partnership, there are 3 primary reasons beekeepers are losing their colonies, or reasons why their colonies are getting sick and dying. And the top one is Varroa. Has anyone heard of Varroa before?
Yeah.
I think every single beekeeper and every person in this audience should know what Varroa is. So Varroa is a mite, and the mite is not the issue, it's the fact that this mite transfers different diseases. It's a vector for different diseases. And different viruses, and there's no cure for these viruses. And so really, Varroa is something that every single honeybee researcher focuses on, except for Australia. Australia is the only place in the entire world that doesn't have Varroa. Kind of a fun fact. So the second stressor that honeybees face are nutrition. So I heard you all talking and asking questions right before my talk about honey. How much honey do you take? How much honey do you leave? And so nutrition is a huge reason why honeybees will decline. Whether that be lack of forage, so they don't have any pollen coming in, they don't have any nectar coming in. But then the other reason could be because the beekeepers are taking all the honey from the bees and not leaving any, and they end up starving. So really it's kind of an art and a science with knowing how much honey to actually take from your bees and how much to actually leave. What we recommend at the lab and what Jamie will recommend at the lab is having your super. You've got your brood box, you've got one medium super, and then everything else above that you can take. That's kind of our general rule at the lab. All right, and then the third thing that we focus on are queen issues. So even just in my 3 years of being with the lab and 6 years at being at UF, I keep hearing that beekeepers are having issues with queens. Queens aren't like they used to be. There's something going on with my queens. We like to blame the queen for a lot of what's going on in our colony. I think she gets a lot of blame. But queens are an issue, but we don't really have a lot of research from before. We don't have research from back in the day, so there's nothing really to compare it to of what our queens should be doing and what they're doing differently now than what they were doing in the past. And so what better way to start collecting that information than now? Hopefully you all are using journals and making sure that you're writing what's going on in your colonies just to figure out what's going on with your queen. All right, so Jamie is going to focus a lot on this, I think, next month when he comes to speak to you. But we did want to emphasize that we are part of the land grant system. So the University of Florida is something called the land grant, and what that means is that we focus on instruction, which are just the classes that you take when you go to college, right? When you want to receive a degree, you take these classes. We also have research. You're probably familiar with research. And then we have extension, which is disseminating information and sharing the science. So anything that you see that comes out of the honeybee lab really falls under that extension umbrella. And so that's where my job comes into play, is making sure that I'm providing you resources, programs, workshops, anything that you need to be a successful beekeeper. So once we open up for question and answers, I would love to have feedback of what you think the honeybee lab should be doing, or any resources that you feel like may be lacking. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through some of the lab members that we have, some of the stuff that they do, and then we'll talk about some of the extension programs that we have. So Dr. Cameron Jack, a lot of people think that Dr. Jamie Ellis is the only honeybee researcher at UF, and Dr. Cameron Jack is the other honeybee researcher that we have. But you don't see Dr. Cameron Jack as often because he doesn't have an appointment in extension. So you may have heard him speak occasionally, but really his primary job is to teach students and to also conduct research. And he has more beekeeping classes at UF than any other land-grant institution or any other university in the entire nation. He has a lot of beekeeping They just got back from Thailand. I know. Who guessed? Was that you, Becky? It was Becky. I don't know how I knew that. So they just got back from Thailand, and I don't know if you all know this, but here in the United States, we work with one species of honeybee, that is Apis mellifera, right? There are 9 species of Apis, and Thailand has at least 5 of them. So they took 10 students, they went for an entire month. Jamie got to go for part of it, and Cameron got to go for part of it, and the students were exposed to all these different types of honeybees. I think some of their favorites were the stingless honeybee, imagine that. So they had a lot of fun with their beekeeping classes. But this is something that we can do with extension. So if you are interested in going on a trip to Thailand, we can make that happen to look at the different species. I would love to go to Thailand, so please help me out. All right, so some of Cameron's research, what he focuses on, you're going to see a lot of varroa. You're going to see lots of bits and pieces of varroa in a lot of the research that we do. So Cameron tests the seasonal efficacy. So he basically looks at the seasons and the temperature and what's going on and whether our varroa treatments are actually working. Okay, and so the second thing that he really focuses on are new chemicals with varroa and small hive beetle. You all have issues with small hive beetle? It was really bad this past year, actually. And I don't know if you all know what small hive beetle larva smells like, but it is horrible. It's really, really bad. So this is Chris. He's our lab manager. He is basically just our caretaker. He makes sure that everything in the lab works. If you ever call the honeybee lab, he's probably the first person that you will talk to and meet. We also have Steven, who is our beekeeper. So, we've been around Jamie's been around for over 15 years now, and this is probably the first time in 2 years or so that we've hired on a beekeeper. So we actually never had a beekeeper at the honeybee lab, if you can imagine that. So Dr. Jamie Ellis, I'll let him introduce himself next month to you, but he has responsibilities in teaching, research, and extension, and so he does all 3. He primarily does extension. He's going to be very animated. He's very knowledgeable. Every day we have lunch, and he's always teaching us something new. And so hopefully you will also learn a couple things from him. And with his teaching responsibilities, he actually doesn't teach classes, which is very confusing for some people to believe, that he doesn't teach classes, but he oversees the graduate students that are going through classes. And so really he's a mentor, he's the leader of the lab, and he makes sure that, all of the research that's conducted is done in a very well-mannered way. Does anyone know Jennifer? Yeah. She told me to tell you all she says hello. I just texted her. So Jennifer Stanley used to be the vice president of your association here in Pinellas County. I think, and she tells me this, I want to believe her, she came to one of our workshops and she attended bee college, and that's what made her decide to become a grad student with our lab. And so she was a beekeeper, she was a vice president here, and then she decided that she wanted to start her master's degree. So Jennifer is about to finish up, and she's actually headed to Auburn to do her PhD. So we're very excited for her. But her research project works on in vitro rearing of honeybees. If you went to her talk at Bee College, she basically she's like the mother bee of all the worker bees in the lab. So she rears honeybees in the laboratory. Why would someone want to do that? People have asked me that all the time. Why would you want to rear honeybees in the laboratory? A lot of this work is used for pesticide work. It's a very controlled environment. She can really control exactly what she's feeding the larva, and that really helps us understand those larval development stages, from egg to larva to pupa to adult. And so that's work that she's working on right now, and we're excited for her. We're happy for her to go to Auburn to learn more from other mentors and bee specialists around the world. So Kaylin Kleckner, if you've ever met Kaylin is very good. She's going to be so mad at me for telling you this. She's very good at teaching queen mating biology. If you want to know about queens, she is your girl. She knows a lot about queens. She also knows a lot about varroa. Believe it or not, we actually try to rear Varroa at the lab, which means that we try to grow and have as many and as much Varroa as possible.
Stop it.
I know, right? We call them mite factories. They're the mite bombs. But we are trying to do research on them, and so we need to have as many as possible. And believe it or not, those mites, they do not survive off honeybees for more than a day, which makes them incredibly difficult to do research on. Because and Kaylin will tell you that they're very dramatic. They're so dramatic. They'll stay alive forever. They'll transmit these viruses. As soon as you take them off, they'll just die. They will. It's really quite amazing to see. And so they work with mites. We try to grow mites, but we also want to keep our bees alive. And I cannot tell you how difficult that is to do. If you've lost mites or you've lost bees through mites and just having mites, imagine trying to keep them alive. And so that's what we do at the lab, is we just try to breed mites. So she's doing her PhD right now, and it's funny, she has a lot of experience with queens. If you've ever been to bee college, she does a class where you learn how to clip and mark queens. And it's a lot of fun because we practice with drones. The drones won't sting you, so you can practice painting, you can practice cutting their wings. But she has really mastered the art of clipping a queen's wings for swarm control, but clipping enough to where they'll still accept their queen and won't just completely disregard her because they think she's defective. And so if you have questions about queens, I think every person in this room should send her an email. She'll be really happy with it. So she is working with, she's really great with queens, really great with Varroa. She's actually working on something called unicolonality, which if you all think about honeybees, we think of them as one colony, right? As one separate unit. Now she's looking at the idea of wild honeybee colonies, which we don't have any wild honeybee colonies or native honeybee colonies here in the United States, but she wants to go to South Africa to look at the different wild honeybees out there. And instead of looking at one colony as an organism, she's looking at all of the colonies to see if they're related. And that way she can actually look at DNA tests to see if instead of just one unit, they're all one massive colony, which would be pretty cool. If you think about drifting, there are some bees that are allowed into a colony that they didn't belong to. Why would that be? Nobody knows. That's a great question, you guys. Nobody knows. And so that's something that she's looking at. So it'll be really interesting to see, it's going to take 4 years or so, but it'll be interesting to see what she finds out about just the relatedness of these colonies, especially in areas of South Florida. Do you all have African-derived honeybees? We won't tell Becky. I don't know if you've heard of African-derived honeybees, but there are many African-derived honeybees. We like to say south of Orlando, but some of those, if she can't go to Africa, she's going to be able to go to South Florida and be able to look at some wild colonies that are out there, because there are a lot of swarms, So she'll be able to do her work that way as well. So Marley Iredale, she is a veterinarian. She is a vet pathologist, and she is basically looking at honeybee viruses. She knows a lot about viruses, and she's looking at really the ways that they are spread and transmitted through honeybee colonies and from honeybee to honeybee. So Jose, if you haven't met him, he is one of our postdocs. He is managing a honeybee subspecies collection, and so I actually just got back from Puerto Rico to collect samples for him, and he basically just has a collection from all over the world. So if you all are traveling and want to collect honeybees, let me know, and we'll be sure to add it to our collection. So he's actually looking at honeybee genetics. If you're coming to bee college, he is our genetics guru. So he knows a lot about honeybee genetics. All right, and yours truly. So this is, thanks. So everything that you see through the lab comes from Extension. We really focus on any emerging topics. We work with, you all heard of the murder hornet that happened in 2020. So I became an instant specialist in murder hornets to just tell people that it's okay, they're not here, calm down. It's all good. We also take phone calls and emails. So when you all have questions about your colonies, if there's something going on in your apiary, that goes to the extension group. We do videos, we try to do content for youth. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the programs that we have, and we also do some train the trainer events. And so I'm hoping in the future that we'll be able to take some of the leads, some of the presidents and vice presidents of the association to do a leadership training to really get them maybe a couple days of just all things honeybees so that they're ready and equipped to be able to educate their local associations. Because there's one of me, and there are a lot of beekeepers out there. And not just beekeepers, but we work with different stakeholders. So I work a lot with mosquito control, surprisingly. A lot with mosquito control. We work a lot with growers who use honeybees to hopefully minimize any pesticides if there are any pesticide applicators. And so, again, we just work with any stakeholders that have to do or that are interested in honeybees. Okay, so you all do not have a honeybee extension person in Pinellas County. So we have to work on that. I think we need to change that. Your closest, nearest person is going to be Whitney Elmore, and she's in Pasco County. Part of my job is to also work with extension agents around the state so that they can become your local resource. That way, they can help you with emails, they can help with questions, anything going on in your apiary. And so we do our best to try to train the trainers. There's also a person in Hillsborough County. She's brand new, and I'm trying to get her exposed to the honeybee world as much as possible. So, you know what? She might be a better person for all of you to email tomorrow to let her know that there's a need. So the way extension works is that if there's a need for something, and if it's known that there's a need for something, it is more likely that those extension agents can focus on that need. So if you all are emailing me or the lab, it's fine because I'm happy to help you. But these agents also need to know that you all have a need because you have a huge group here. It would be really cool to see someone to be able to help you and work with you and go out to your colonies. And, you know, Becky can only do so much. She has a lot of beekeepers to work with. So if we had one other extension person to help Becky and maybe help you with mite monitoring, help you collect samples. If you feel uncomfortable with that, a lot of beekeepers feel uncomfortable with collecting mites for some reason. So we want to make sure that you feel comfortable with that process. So extension agents do go out into the field. Yep. So some of these extension agents, so most of them focus actually on agriculture, horticulture. I do have one extension agent that works with something called Family and Consumer Services. And what she does is she teaches people how to harvest honey, how to be a commercial honey operation, how to have a commercial kitchen, have a certified commercial kitchen if you're looking to go from sideliner to commercial. If you are trying to sell your products under the cottage food law, that is also something that the agents specialize in and can help you with. And so you have all these resources available to you. And what we try to do at the lab is we try to educate all these people to learn about pests, different diseases, and just understanding the industry a little bit better. All right, so some of my main projects that I've been working on this year, I think I was told that you had someone helping with business, like starting your business or some of the rules and regulations with business. And, you know, one might ask, what in the world does that have to do with beekeeping? And actually a lot, because a lot of beekeepers are ready to start selling their product. Did you know that under the cottage food law, you all can sell on Amazon your products? That's a new thing that just changed. Yeah, so lots of things have changed with that. And so, you know, just understanding your business and being able to level up and getting to that point is definitely applicable in your beekeeping operation. We have a question.
Yeah, is that still only statewide?
It is not only statewide. So you can mail and ship your products out of the state. Yep. And they increase the maximum amount that you can make to, I think it's like $250,000. Does anyone have enough honey in their house that would make you $250,000? I'm just wondering. I don't think it's actually physically possible. But if you make less than $250,000, you can sell your product on Amazon and you can mail that to whoever wants to buy it.
Might recommend a different way. Amazon has a lot of hoops you have to jump through.
Okay, no Amazon.
Yeah, I'm just saying from experience.
Right, so Amazon does have hoops, but
A lot.
of hoops, but that's okay. So, that is just my way of telling you that, yes, you can do that if you
There are
want
other
to.
avenues that you can do that.
Definitely.
Jumping something.
Yeah. All right. So then the other projects that we work on, one of the other projects is working with ag teachers. So we receive a lot of requests from agriculture teachers wanting to teach about honeybees. So I don't know if we have any educators in the audience, but we do have training programs that we're trying to put together for ag teachers. And then the last thing that we're working on is working with veterinarians. I don't know if you know this, but you can receive an antibiotic if you request one through the state. And this is not for Varroa. I want to knock that down now because I got a lot of calls one time because someone started spreading the wrong information saying that you have to have an antibiotic to treat Varroa. That is not true. Okay, so let me just say that again. You do not have to have an antibiotic to treat mites. You do not use antibiotics to treat mites, actually. So please don't feel like you have to treat your bees with antibiotics. But there are beekeepers that like to treat for antibiotics in their colonies, and they will get a veterinary feed directive, which is kind of like a prescription. And so they go through the state for that. Now, there are a lot of veterinarians that want to work with their local beekeepers, and so we are training veterinarians to understand honeybees a little bit better because, surprise, surprise, veterinarians don't really know much about honeybees. They don't know anything about honeybees. And so part of our program is to try to teach them if they want to work with beekeepers. There was a question in the back.
I don't know if I walked out and missed it, but with the veterinarians, so we gotta contact the state, get the scripts. Yeah, it's online. How long is that gonna last? Because like you were saying, vets don't know about these, and I know vets don't wanna go into it.
Right.
Like mine, they don't wanna go in there with all the bees. How long is the state still gonna have a vet on board that we can email in and get a script?
Yeah, so the question is how long, so currently in place, what we have is an online system. And so beekeepers will just write in their information in the veterinary feed directive. It sends over to the Florida Department of Agriculture to double check to make sure that you're a registered beekeeper. And then it goes to the veterinary school where there's someone who signs off on that prescription. It is not going away anytime soon, if that makes you feel any better. Good. We are not trying to get rid of it or eliminate it. We just want to make it available for veterinarians to, if they want to be involved with honeybees, that they are able to do that. All right, so I'm going to real quickly go through some of the resources that we have. It's 8:14 right now. So for those of you who will not be able to come up to Gainesville, we have a virtual tour that you're welcome to walk. You can walk around the lab. You can take a look into my office, see what I'm doing there. You can look at all the artwork. You can look at all the different colors, and we have this really awesome room that's red. Bees can't see the color red. And so we set up observation hives in that room so that we can conduct research and we can look at the behavior that honeybees are conducting without bothering them. So believe it or not, when we open up that lid, that's going to put your bees kind of into a different state of mind, right? They may not be doing what they would naturally be doing in their colony, and so we set up observation hives in that red room so that we can observe and see what they're doing with one another while we can see them and they really don't mind us at all. So the Master Beekeeper Program. Is anyone here involved in the Master Beekeeper Program? Raise your hand. Okay, good. So a good amount of people. Awesome. So the Master Beekeeper Program is an online program, and it is about 4 years of training. You don't have to go through all 4 years. The first year is the apprentice program. I highly encourage anyone who's just getting started into bees. If a lot of what I was talking about with the antibiotics and Varroa and the different stressors, if it's too much, then go to the Master Beekeeper program and take that first level of training, because it will go and start from the very beginning of how to plan for your apiary all the way up to pest and disease management. What's great about it is that it's all pre-recorded, and so you can go through and go back if you feel comfortable with any of the pieces of going through your colony. You can look back and take a look at what you need to do to change that. So Bee College, we have our next Bee College happening August 12th and 13th, and that's going to be in Panama City. We hold Bee College twice a year, and what Bee College is basically a 2-day conference-style honeybee event. Has anyone been to Bee College? Did anyone go to this past March Bee College?
Yes.
A couple of people. It was raining so hard for 2 days. We lost power. We took the bees, brought them under a pavilion, and our poor staff and students continued to do apiary inspections while it was thundering, lightning, and pouring. They were getting lit up. I think Jennifer, actually, she had the most stings, and I think she had 30 to 40 stings. So next time you see her, you should say thank you. So we did Bee College, and that's what people were writing in the comment section. These people need a raise. They were getting lit up under the pavilion. But Bee College, after all that, it was raining, power was out, everyone was soaking wet, eating public sandwiches on the ground, and every single person had a smile on their face. And it was actually incredible to see, because it was the first time we had been able to get together in over 2 years. And we had people come from the Bahamas, we had people road tripping, and they listened to Two Bees in a Podcast all the way from Michigan and Minnesota and Chicago. And so they just made a road trip out of it. We had people from Canada and just people from out of the country coming in to attend the Bee College event. So if you're looking for just honeybee exposure, learning all about honeybees, getting hands-on experience, meeting some of the best honeybee researchers and educators around the nation, please come to our Bee College, because we have a lot of fun while we're there. And you get to meet other beekeepers as well. So Two Bees in a Podcast, right now, as long as you all are enjoying Two Bees in a Podcast, we will continue to release Two Bees in a Podcast. We started this as a COVID project, and I don't know if we're going to be able to continue posting them once a week, because it's a lot to do once a week. But if you have questions, please let me know. These podcast episodes are available on any podcasting app. A lot of beekeepers will listen to it while they're keeping bees, while they're on road trips going from apiary to apiary, and we've gotten really good feedback. Social media, we are very active on social media, so if you are on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, we are available on there as well. This is the slide you really need. So after telling you everything of what we do at the lab, introducing you to the lab members, this slide has all of the websites that you would need to help you become a successful beekeeper. And so these resources are available to you if you have trouble with Varroa. The Honeybee Health Coalition is really a great website. They have something called a Varroa decision-making tool. You can go to it, and you can basically fill out different questions to decide what you should treat with, and they have supporting videos on how to treat for mites if you're planning on treating with mites. I just learned 2 weeks ago that if you take a picture of this, you can go back and click on the QR code later. I had no idea you could do that. All right, so if you all are interested in the Master Beekeeper program, right now what we're doing is if there are 10 of you that want to do the Master Beekeeper program together, the clubs can receive 20% off of their members. And so instead of $250 for that first level, it's $200 a person. So if you're interested in doing this, the information is very applicable to your beekeeping operations, and this is also what some of our students are taking. So this is really the equivalent of some of the college level classes that we have. All right, so if you also want to continue supporting the lab, I told you that we were able to hire a beekeeper in the past year or so. And so this is a fundraising event that we're doing, and this is what helps pay for that beekeeper's salary to keep him on. So if you feel like the Bee Lab should have a beekeeper and you would like to donate, this is the QR code to do that. All right, and so that is the end of my presentation. Here's a picture of me harvesting after working 200 colonies, bending over, hurting my back, harvesting, what were we harvesting? Gallberry. That was just a couple of weeks ago. And all those bees next to me are drift bees. Those are just bees that decided to fly over and land together. It's not a swarm. But my back did hurt for quite a bit of time. So, much respect to you, commercial beekeeper. All right. If you have any questions, this is my email address. I'd be happy to take any questions if you have any about the lab, about research, or general honeybee stuff.
Yes, I'm taking the master class and the apprentice. Why is the hardest part of the class actually taking the video that I made and trying to get it downloaded to the University of Florida? Because it says, try this app, or this app. But it's like I go in and it's like my tech support has left the house, moved away, and gotten married, so I'm screwed.
Now you don't have tech support. So the question is, so part of our Master Beekeeper program in the levels, you have to show that you can actually keep bees. Part of it is lighting a smoker and keeping it lit. Part of it is using a hive tool. Part of it is going through, not dropping frames, and being able to identify the resources in the colony and the different castes in the colony. And so how we do this is we ask master beekeepers to either submit a video, or you can come in person and we can do the evaluation in person, or we can set up a Zoom link and I'd be happy to go through it with you, and we could do it on a virtual call if you want to do that. I don't actually know why your video is not loading though, so.
It just says that the file's too large.
Oh, okay, the file's too large then. So what you should do is load it, yeah, thank you. I fixed the problem. So what, I mean.
I know the problem, I'm looking for the answer.
Another thing you could do is load it onto YouTube and just send us the, you can make your YouTube video private and just send us the link to your YouTube account.
Okay, so.
Yep, so that would work too.
I'll find out.
Yes?
I know a lot of the research we do at the lab is for backyard beekeepers and the such. Dr. Ellis talked about before that they were going to open up for more research for commercial beekeepers and resources that we can use for queen rearing, keeping the bees alive, blah, blah, blah. Is there any updates on expansion at the lab for commercial guys?
Yeah, so the question is there any expansion for commercial resources?
Yes.
And yes, the answer is yes to that. So a couple of things that I did mention during my presentation actually. So I don't know if you're on my commercial beekeeping listserv. If not, we'll get you on that listserv, because so when I started the position, yes, backyard beekeepers take a lot of our time, and we love backyard beekeepers, but we also recognize that commercial beekeepers have different needs from the backyard beekeepers. And so I conducted a survey and sent it out to every commercial beekeeper in the state. And when we received those results, a lot of the commercial beekeepers wanted more information on business practices, queen rearing, a honeybee diagnostic laboratory, things like that. So the Florida Department of Agriculture took that survey and hired on a full-time honeybee diagnostics person. I don't know if you knew that, Becky. You do. So his name is James Fulton. He is a pathologist, and so right now what he's doing, because he just started a couple of, like a month ago maybe, he's just started, so what he's currently doing is trying to figure out realistically what he can provide to you all. He's going and meeting with other honeybee labs across the nation, working with USDA, working with other labs, just to see what they provide, the cost that it takes for that, and hopefully, knock on wood, we're going to have a program rolled out by the end of the year. So that should help. The other thing that I also have in mind for queen instrumental insemination, that is something, there's someone called Sue Covey. Her name is Sue Covey, and she's up in Washington State. One of my goals for the next year is to have her come and do a program with us. The only issue with her coming down is that she only allows 4 to 5 students in each of her workshops. And I can only bring her down once. And it's a couple $1,000s for that workshop. and you have to have your equipment and materials ready. So I'm hoping to do that. Again, if you have other feedback for what you want to see, let's make it happen. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of commercial beekeepers also really want help with some of their labor. And so trying to manage a team of people and trying to find people who can actually do the work. There's a lot of that. There's also H2A workers. So doing paperwork for H2A. If you all are familiar with the H2A process, it's basically hiring anyone that's not from the United States to come in and work for you. There's a big process with that, and a lot of the farmers, a lot of the ag commodities and commercial beekeepers will use H2A workers, and so just understanding that process is really important as well. So yeah, if you have other things, we're doing a lot of stuff, you know, behind the scenes. It's just a matter of being able to roll that stuff out and make sure that it rolls out clean and nice. Yep. Other questions? There's a lot. I could stand here all day and talk to you guys about bees and the beekeeping industry. It's a crazy world out there.
The frames you're using, are they foundations, or what are you guys using primarily?
Yeah, so the question is, what equipment are we using? What are our boxes? It's just the standard.
So with the frame itself, are you using, like, I know what's out there, and this is why I asked, there's like the black plastic, the pressed wax, the foundation. What do you guys primarily use?
So we primarily use frames with plastic. Doesn't matter what color it is. Black, yellow.
Do you see any difference in it? Because like in the state of Alabama, a lot of people who have the black plastic, it's just a hot mess. And when you get rid of it and you're putting foundationless in, it's like instantaneous difference. Like they're making all kinds of weird little tunnels and stuff with the black plastic that they're not doing with foundationless. That's why I was asking, do you see a difference in like, I mean, you say it doesn't matter the color, but are you guys using two different colors, or do you see they do the same thing? I mean, it's a hot topic right now for extension.
Yeah, that's a great
I
thing to
follow a
bring
lot
up.
in our state, so it's a very hot topic, that black plastic.
That's very interesting. So the question is whether there's a difference between what the honeybees do with black plastic or yellow foundations. And we primarily use yellow. I honestly don't feel like we've noticed a difference between the two, but maybe we haven't, you know, tried to find a difference between the two. I'm not sure. We primarily use yellow.
I had like a handful of them when I first started, and they were just filled in like weird little tunnels, which makes it so hard to find your feet, because you're trying to hide, you know.
Right.
Some ended up like tearing off a lot of my clothing developed on there. But I went back later and using it kind of rubbing on there. I've got a couple of beads that I've used for, just because primarily I had some beads I was using for stores for honey, and I went back and just left them, and I noticed that after scraping it off once and going back and finding a few here and there, that they had come back and filled them out correctly. But like first time frame and a hive, I've noticed it is just a hot mess, and it's been very publicly talked about on Facebook a lot through a lot of different things in the state of Alabama. I'm curious if you guys.
Yeah, that's interesting. So send me an email because I want to see, and I could ask Jamie to see if he knows any literature that's actually, you know, has done research on this topic. I'm not sure if I can think of any at the top of my head, but Becky looks like she has something to say.
Sounds like, on those plastic cells, you can order them where they're pre-waxed. Some have very little wax, if hardly any. So I always recommend to take, and melt wax, use a little paint roller and roll real good.
We've been doing that. It doesn't matter. They're still building a multi-tone. Like I did that with all of my frames that I put out there when I first started several years ago, and they're still building like multi-tone. But I've noticed if you like
No, I
scrape it
still
off,
don't.
just use it later as a piece instead of trying to use it for your bruise. Like I'm noticing they're going back and forth. I don't know why, but I'm not the only person. It's a hot topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of.
The colors of being different. I have seen difference in brands, but not necessarily in colors. And they even make white foundation too, but I've not seen that.
There's actually a podcast episode that we did with a specialist who his whole research is looking at, so with the hexagon, we have 6 sides to it, right? That's like the standard shape that the honeybees will work with. But then when they start in one place and then a group of honeybees start in another place, as they start connecting, you don't see that 6-sided hexagon anymore. So they can actually build 7-sided and 5-sided hexagons. And so it would be really interesting, I think, to ask him what his thoughts are on that. They will fix it if they need to, but they're definitely capable of doing 5-sided and 7-sided shapes as well. So fun fact, you all. Not all honeybees do hexagons 6-sided.
Are the podcast topics searchable? I mean, is there a database where you can search and find the episode that you're looking for? Because I was trying to find it the other day and I didn't know how.
Yeah, so let me show you. Does this have internet on it?
Yes.
Oh, so our website is ufhoneybees.com. Todd, have you tried looking at our website?
I was probably trying to do it on the podcast app, and that may be why I couldn't find it.
So on the banner, you'll see that, and you can actually search this page,
Okay.
depending on what you're looking for. So if you know the topic or the name of it, or
I can't remember what I was searching for
Okay.
at this point. But search,
Well-
search for the 5-sided cells.
now you put me on the spot.
That you just talked about.
I
I know there was an episode about it.
Construction. How's that? You got me. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll have to figure that out. Give me some time on that. I've got some other projects, but give me some time and I'll get that. Maybe we'll do like an appendix or something, an index. So if y'all want to listen to my voice for 102 hours, here you go. Just push play. Any other questions? One more announcement, actually 2, sorry, I have lots of things to tell you. The first one is that you all have a new assistant bureau chief of apiary, and his name is Brandon Stanford. So that would be Becky's new boss at the state level. So that's one thing that I would like to share with you. And then the other thing I was going to share is that so you all are part of the local association. There is a state, the Florida State Beekeepers Association. They are meeting in November. So if you want to take part in the state association, they're meeting, I think it's the first Friday and Saturday of November this year. And they're meeting in Gainesville at the Strong Center. And then for our national association, the American Beekeeping Federation is the National Beekeeping Association, and they're hosting it in Jacksonville, Florida in January of 2023. So if you are interested in going to the National Association, I see some people nodding their heads in the back. Great conference to meet people and beekeepers from people and beekeepers, like beekeepers aren't people. Sorry. So it's a great opportunity to meet beekeepers just from all around the country. So the American Beekeeping Federation is the one that is in Jacksonville in January of 2023.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so she was talking about the Honey Lab and how before it got started, and there was donations made, and we've been a strong supporter in the Honey Lab up there. It was actually at the time it was to keep Jamie Ellis in the state of Florida because he had some offers in other states, and we didn't want to lose him. He's really a jewel in our ground. So we have a brick up there with our name on it. We also had a really good friend of mine and quite a good friend of quite a few of the older people here, or older time beekeepers. Jimmy Johnson, we donated an observation hive. So she was talking about the red observation hives that were in the room. So we donated a hive up there for him because he was quite an asset to the club getting started and things he's done through the club and for the club and teaching and being that guy. So we've been a big part of a lot with the thing. And so I was standing back there and I saw they go through the different donations for the lab for the year, and they were talking about the hive for $100 a month. And I would like to make a presentation that the club donates $100 a month for the year. We'll go ahead and cut them a check for one time for $1,200 and get it going for them to help assist them with their beekeeping needs. We have money in the bank. We are a teaching, learning organization, and that's what they're about. And they've been so great. And so whenever we call them, they set up appointments, they set up times and schedule and drive down here from Gainesville. They go way out of their way to do whatever and answer emails and do whatever you needed all throughout the year. So I made a motion. Could I get a second?
Second, I second.
So I'd like to say ayes. Aye. Any nays? All right, that carries. I think that's a motion. One of the reasons I enjoy doing what I do up here, because I think this is a proud moment, proud group, so thank you. Beekeeping, Saturday at RV Yard, Monday at Great Bay out there with Jim at 10 o'clock, 8:30 Saturday here at RV Yard. We're getting ready to do the raffle. What else am I forgetting? Oh, so this almost got by me, and I'm sorry we didn't have it out ahead of time. Every time, except for the one time when we were in COVID and Jamie just spoke on the internet to us. That was a fun ordeal. But so anyhow, we've always gave away a Nook when he came and spoke, and we did it through a raffle. So we will be taking names out there tonight. We don't have the tickets. We will take a name and a phone number. If you want to get in on purchasing this Nook, the Nook tickets will be $5 a piece, or you can get 5 tickets for a $20 bill. And then they're going to put it on the website too. So you can do it tonight or do it on the website, and then we'll still have tickets in July and right up till we close the box on them, and we'll have a Nook here. We'll take it over to the B Yard that Thursday night, and then we'll honor and give it out to whoever on that Saturday. So you'll actually be getting a live Nook with food, brood, and a queen. You will have to have a box. The person who's donating the box will not donate the Nook, so we have to get that back. So we are going to do a Nook giveaway next month. Someone just asked me about a few minutes ago, so I had to scramble around and get this. Yes, sir.
You need a box donated also?
Pardon?
You need a box donated also?
How generous are you?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
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 That will come with a box.
All right. Is it coming in an obnoxious green color, or will it just be?
It will now.
It will be. He's lying to y'all. He gets his boxes. I know he don't paint them, so. Okay, thank you. So while we're doing this, and he asked that question, I want to go ahead and say thank you. He's donating to Doug. And it's people like this, since this club got started, that I've been dealing with. And it makes me proud, kind of swell up inside. From stuff like Sebastian's done, and quite a few others of you. I don't have the time. I could probably name a bunch of you. I apologize for that, but I do want to thank Jim and Jim in the back. I got a pair of Jims that run each of B Yard, and they make this job and this club so successful with all the work they do all year long. And then interwoven that, there's people that work with them that help keep the bee yards up and take care of things. We are going to need to do some bee work or some trimming work and all here at our yard here at the college. We're going to mentioned in an email, so we're gonna need to get some help together for that. Am I forgetting anything else? Maura, you're gonna be there Saturday with paperwork? Okay. So we're ready. Okay, I don't wanna go in. Oh. So, real quick, has anybody seen one of these? If you have, shut up. When I saw it, I had not seen one or seen one in used. I guess this is an old style one. Yeah, you put Dawn soap in here and you. I guess the older ones, this is a newer one, so it's plastic. The older ones, I guess, were glass, blown glass. So this was actually used for catching a queen. You find her on the, you set it down right over, it's a little slot open. You set it right over, it should crawl right up inside. You just put the plug back in there, and she can't get out this plug. So you have your queen trapped. You didn't have to touch or handle her. So I guess it's made of glass. But I had never seen one. I see Nifty Pete stuff over the years. And did you find this at D&J or where? Oh, Amazon. Find everything on Amazon, I guess.
They're like $6 or $10. I used one today.
Did you?
Yes.
Old dog, new trick. What do I want to tell you? So we're putting it on the table for a, it's part of a raffle. So, can I call lovely assistant to help hand out stuff?
Yeah.
All right, if you didn't get a ticket because we ran out of tickets, your name is up here as many tickets as you bought. I have Chris as 15, George 6, Shane 35, and Carrie M 15. Everybody good with that? All right. iTool. There were 330 tickets. Was the last ticket 329? All right.
Okay, next will be a decapping roller. Jimmy's putting his thumb on the wheel.
Shane.
The next will be for one of our local bottles of honey from our club.
.306.
The next one will be a chunk, or, okay.
One, two, three.
That was, the next one will be a chunk honey that's gallberry from Stark.
143.
Thank you. Ah, wonderful.
That's one.
Aviva.
Nice job.
Can you get this signed by the author for you?
290.
We can get this signed by the author for you if you need that, sir.
That's right. There was like just like.
259.
259. You got it again? Crack pipe. I mean, green catcher, green catcher.
Chris.
I'm just saying, you get caught around the college during the day with that, you're going to jail. They're not gonna mind, green catcher, nothing.
226.
Is that so? Trey?
All or one?
4.
2, 3, 1.
And the main event?
Yes!
I would say this would make you look like a newbie beekeeper, but you are, so it. So you've been coming for about 2 or 3 months to our, since we started? So, once again, I'd like to thank the Boy Scouts. They took the time to build these and make these swarm traps for us for our clubs. I think they did an outstanding job. They cut out and put there's a swarm trap box and their troop number and all on it. So that was an outstanding thing. I think they got a merit award for that. So this pretty well wraps the night up. Get here early next week or next month. Don't miss out on JBL.